Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor.
Welcome back, everyone. We just wrapped up that conversation with Big Dave. Again, he's out there chasing fall Chinook along the coast and silvers. Don't forget, though, the buy three, get one free deal going on over at Fisherman's right now is strictly for fall Chinook and silvers, coho, whatever you want to call them. Twitch and jig, spinners, spin fish, everything that you're going to need. And I would also stock up on those Big Al's Fish Splash as well. Although those are not part of the deal, you're still going to need them. Okay, we've got Jerry on the line from Gresham. He's been very patient, and I appreciate that. He's got a question about drawing for elk. I think we all do. But Jerry, what's your question for everyone?
Well, it just seems like the last couple of years you've hunted the east side, and I don't know if you hunt an area that's a controlled hunt or not, but apparently you must, and then you draw a tag for elk and deer. That's pretty tough to do, and I was just wondering if you had any tips for some of us on how you do it and what to do.
Well, you got to be willing to put in as your first choice, number one. Now, I do hunt a controlled hunt over there, which I thoroughly do not agree with. Based on the numbers and what I've actually seen in the woods, last year being the first year, okay, being the first year of it being controlled hunt for elk, deer, of course, I believe was the year before, but either way, it's very frustrating because what they told us at the time, and some might remember, before we wrap things up on our previous network, I had ODFW on to specifically talk about why they were going to draw during our general bow season for elk and deer, right? In particular for the east side, because that's where I spend my time, as to why they were going to do that. And, of course, if they were going to actually, revert that if they saw a reason to do so, meaning the populations of both the deer and the elk going up. Well, one of their theories is that there was going to be less people, in specific areas, because now they're going to have to get spread out, and there won't be as many of them because they're going to have to draw a tag. False and false, okay? This year, we've had the same camp for over 25 years. Well, it's gone because there's so many people. Somebody actually got into our camp before we did. That's never happened, right? There's just a lot of people. So it's a very frustrating scenario, especially if you've been spending your time in that same zone for so long. But to get back to drawing a tag the last 2 years for that controlled hunt for our general bow season, I don't even know if we can call it general bow season anymore, but you have to be willing to put in for your first choice. Now, what that means is that if you have preference points that are already established for different hunts of elk or deer, you're going to lose them. So that's your trade-off. I mean, myself, I burnt all my preference points for elk 4 or 5 years ago for the Ochocos, which I really should have come home with a monster, but I was too much of a wuss to take the shot, but it's a long story. So all I've done this year, and again last year, is I put in for my draws as my first choice. And luckily, I was able to draw my deer. Deer over there is specific to units. The tag that I have for elk is an all-encompassing tag. I'm going to leave that name off just because. But yeah, you got to be willing to put in for your first choice. Now, if you're not going to do that, and you're going to put in for your second choice, well, now you're taking the risk of not drawing. Okay, I know several people in the same unit that I applied for my deer tag that put in for that same tag with their second choice, and they didn't draw it. Also, I know folks that put in for their elk tag in the same encompassing tag that I have. They put that in as their second choice, and they did not draw. Now, that being said, it's just kind of a luck thing, really. I mean, I am literally on the no-draw list. All my other tags, I didn't draw, and I haven't drawn any of them except the 615 in the last decade. Okay? So, I mean, it is, as like everybody else, it's very, very frustrating, and I am not a huge fan of how we do it here, especially when you get a chance to see how they do it in Wyoming, New Mexico, Montana, in different areas around the country. It just seems like there's a better way to do it, but it is what it is. That's the system that we have to play with, but it can be frustrating. But again, Jerry, I hope that at least gives you a little insight on how I do it. But for those bow tags, you just got to be willing to put in for your first choice, and that will give you an advantage as opposed to, say, your second choice, or even further down. But at the very least, I hope that helps out. Do we still have them, Ryan, or no? Okay, so at the very least, I'm taking advantage of my tags. I'm just going nuts, right? I don't get to leave until tomorrow after the show's done. Everything's ready to go. I just got to get it loaded up, get back home, and get out. But this is a very interesting year. None of us have been in the woods this late into the year. They've extended the season, not extended it in time, but extended it in the month. So it could be very interesting. We'll see how things work out. I hope I have photos. We'll see. Anyway, we'll be right back, everyone, with the deal of the week from Fisherman's Marine.